Okay, so as I said before, all the lectures will be recorded and posted in the appropriate spot, and I'll show you where. So you can always refer to the lectures if you forgot something. And once again, there's a lot of material. Some of it I will cover in detail. Some of it I may just gloss over. So prepare yourselves. Module 1 is kind of the intro to Oracle SQL. Oracle has its own particular flavor or type of SQL, but SQL is SQL, whether it's Microsoft or Google or PeopleSoft or whatever. The language is pretty common or pretty standard throughout its iteration. I've seen about 5 different iterations, and generally, if you understand one, you can understand the others. There's just small nuances. All right, the syllabus quiz is required. A couple of you, thank you, have already completed it. But you do have plenty of time because we get a break next week. I kind of expanded this whole next couple of weeks into like one group of assignments. So, but the syllabus quiz is due by Friday. I think it's Friday, next Friday. So please don't procrastinate too much, and that is required. Basically, it's your way to get something done so that you're not dropped. Remember, there's a possibility because we've had problems, especially with the online, but even in these live onlines where we have students that are just ghosts. They whether it's AI signing them up or they're really not individuals. So after that, if you're not active in the class, I will be forced to drop you. So since you're all here, I'm preaching to the choir, but we have several students that are not here. But the syllabus quiz is a way to legitimize your enrollment, and basically you're locked into the course and you can't really go anywhere. All right, and I'm going to talk about the platform that we will use to run SQL queries. This is an Oracle Developer. It is a free and well, free to use. You just have to sign up, and if you're going to any of these particular disciplines, basically getting into the Oracle Academy is probably a good resource for you anyway. So it's one of those situations where you're going to sign, put in your email address, etc., and you can check to opt out of all the notifications and marketing ploys. But essentially, it's a good way to tap into things like cyber and technology, etc. So we'll talk about that today. There's a username and password that you'll need, and I will show you where everyone's listed. And it's a common, very open environment. There's really not a problem having you all know everyone else's username and password. It's unless you're really devious, you're not going to go in and log in as someone else, I'm thinking, and try and disrupt their learning. But it's a pretty straightforward and open process at this point. Now, if you ever have access to the Oracle database environment outside of the class, obviously it's protected credentials, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not worried about the cybersecurity here or the security of your access. Basically, I can monitor all of the accounts, and if there's something that I need to step in and mitigate, et cetera, I will do that. But I'll talk about that. The schema setup. The good thing about this particular bullet point, you don't have to do that this semester. You don't have to run any scripts to start. You have all basically all the information you need to do the whole course. So you should be happy about that. This was always a big challenge. Everyone was afraid, I don't want to do that. Well, this semester is the first semester where everything is set up for you. You just need to download the developer and log in with the scenario and the parameters that we set for you. And then there's a couple of videos. So after you having to listen to me for an hour or so, there's a very simple video. If you don't know what a database is, this will point you right in the direction you need to move into dealing with a database. Now, you're probably thinking, well, I know what a database is. Well, yeah, I generally would challenge you. Database means a lot, and the manipulation of data is even more nebulous as far as an understanding. So get to watch a little video, and then I'm also going to expose you to what's called normalization. I'll be talking about that particular term for the most part throughout the first iteration or the first part of the course. So it's just the way that the relational database model was formed to help you understand what it is. And I think that's it. And then we're actually going to walk through, I know I have this on here twice. I'm going to show you where it is in the modules. And then what I'd like for you all to do is to have the Oracle SQL Developer installed before we finish this evening. And then there's a quiz. There's a quiz in all of the modules for the most part. And I'll talk about basically the quizzes. Every module, it's based on the material and it's based on the lecture. So if you're paying attention, the quizzes are usually 5 or 6 questions. Some of them are queries, some of them are just challenge questions. But once again, this is a way to assess your learning or check your learning. So that's going to be our plan for this evening. Does anyone have any questions or comments to start? Make sense? Just like any other class, all this intro stuff, and let's get started. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring over Canvas. I'm going to stop the PowerPoint and pull over. And you've all seen this before, right? This is essentially, and what I'll do, I'm gonna go into the student view so that I'm looking at what you're seeing, so I can walk you through some of the things that you should be thinking about right away. All right, as I said, student resources at CGCC, it's all pretty common. Canvas, how to use Canvas, verify email in Canvas. And that's, as you know, I really check that that inbox all the time. So it sends me a notification and I will respond. This is one of my superpowers. I will respond pretty quickly. I like to be I like to be very active with students. So if you send me a message, and if you look, and I'll show you, I actually do have my cell phone in there. If you're desperate, you need to talk to me, you can send me a text or even call. Although I may not answer because you're not in my contacts, so I may just force you to leave a voicemail. Anyway, student resources, and this is the same for CGCC. I just want to just point it out. There's a ton of resources, even for you all in this class. So please don't be remiss in using some of these. The computer lab, especially if you're on campus. I mean, I'm surprised at how many resources they have at CGCC and the Mesa district for the students. All right, I'm going to go back to the module view, and I'm certain that y'all know how to understand or know how to navigate via browser, etc. I don't. Everyone here is technologically savvy, right? So I don't have any basic users. All right. Excuse me. Student success orientation. You probably have been through that. Then student life. All of these CGCC aspects that's available for you. Some of them are equal to what we have here at Grand Canyon. So please don't be remiss on all that. Now I see these symbols here in here. The college is really focusing on accessibility. So there's a lot of things that I actually have to address before I teach this class again in the spring to make sure all of these are abiding by the ADA standards that are coming down. And I know Mesa community colleges are really focusing on that. So that's what those symbols are, in case you were wondering. All right, getting started. Here we go. So make sure you click on the welcome, and it has all more information about, ooh, I'm a student and this is the course I'm taking. But there's this description in here. Make sure you read through it, because the terminology and just the verbiage in here will at least get you to the point where you have more questions about this particular class and what we're trying to accomplish with the whole Oracle Academy. So make sure you do that. And yes, you can navigate through the, oh, that's not good. I got broken links in there. I'm gonna have to check that. That's a hit on me. So I'm gonna get out of student view. So I just checked that this afternoon. And so something must have happened. All right, so I'll stay in this view because I have to make sure that transfer to the student view. When you all go into that getting started module, do you have broken links on the images?
Yeah.
You do? So maybe I should check this now. All right, so I'm going to, so you can see all the things that we do to waste time or something. I'm actually going to change that image. Yeah, I forgot to check that, so that's a hit on me. So give me a second, bear with me while I repair that. So I'm going to use a different image, not the CGCC one right now. But what we have to do, I'm usually pretty good at this, so image, upload. Where did I put that? And then I'm going to add my little picture. Hopefully I can find that. Yeah, I'm really boring you all to tears, aren't I? So, and I'm going to resize that because you don't want to stare at that. All right. And save. All right. So let's make sure. There we go. All right. Can you see my little, I'm actually wearing the same shirt. Oh, well, I do have other shirts, so don't panic. Well, that's me. I told you a little bit about myself. Yes, I have all these degrees and all that. I've been in industry a long time in the military, etc. So, and basically I will hold office hours right before our class and right after if needed. And I am on campus sometimes, so if you like for me to meet in person, that would work. We just have to schedule something. All right, let's move on. Hopefully I won't run into any other problems. Student expectation as far as technology. I will tell you right now, hopefully you all have a relatively high-end computer, meaning you have enough memory, at least 16 gigs of memory, a good hard drive, at least 500 gigs, half tera, if not a tera, and i7 or higher as far as your processor. So that's the one thing that, and I know that generally these specs are you're required to abide by these specs, etc. Especially if you're going into any of these higher level database scenarios like AI and ML, you do, because there's several platforms that will trip you up if you don't have an high-end computer or system. Netiquette, I'm not going to go into that too much. I mean, in this class, it's a lot of material. It's yes, and I want to state this right away. If you're having issues with building the queries and you're using AI, that's fine. But Oracle SQL, some of Oracle SQL, depending on the type of AI you're using, will not work correctly. So be very careful of that. And you will have a chance. So the whole idea is to test your SQL queries anyway. And this class is not going to be that complex. So So the netiquette talks about that, talks about academic integrity, etc. I will tell you, the class, once we get started, these next couple of weeks, please don't be fooled by these. This is the first couple of weeks are easy. I do that on purpose just to reel you in, get you all comfortable, get you thinking this class is going to be a breeze. But well, it's kind of a trap, but it really isn't. You just have to keep up with the work. And there's minimal computer skills, and I'm pretty sure you all satisfy that criteria. All right. You know, I do want to remind you, we're part of this Oracle Academy certification. If you take the courses in series, that's DO-DP 154 and 164, you get that certification along with your associates, which is a good thing. I can tell you right now, all of these courses get progressively more difficult. The database administration course, you really use all that you learned in the DO course. And then 154, the data modeling, especially helpful if you're going to AI and ML. And then the PL SQL is the Oracle, basically the Oracle programming around SQL. So, and I've taught all of these courses. So, and that's a good thing. That the certification from Oracle Academy will get you many, many places. And I do want to remind you all, in case you don't know, they basically instructed us to tell you this right away. There's the coding club, and we'll have several announcements about the coding club when they're meeting, and you can meet in person and virtual. So I would suggest that you all join, if you haven't already, the coding club, especially those of you that are moving on to things like AI and ML. All right. Any questions so far? I will stop and pause. And there's another broken link, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll fix that. That came from the Oracle site, but oh, they must have changed my. I promise you, I checked all of these. I'm going to come out of student view because this is embarrassing. I'll have to go back in there and make sure that. So apparently they do a refresh of all the images that are uploaded. It's this whole ADA. But anyway, as I said before, and I'll go back, just so you don't lose anything. And basically this talks about the Oracle certification. There is an exam that you take after the 3 courses, just like any certification. And then you're certified Oracle. So woohoo, that will get you places. All right, so these are only recommended textbooks. Please don't try. Matter of fact, you probably can't find the 12 C's anymore, anywhere, not even online. Why do I continue to recommend them? Well, if you search harder, I actually have copies of both. So if you want to come up to the Grand Canyon, you really need a textbook, but you really won't need them. This is basically what started the Oracle Academy. Bob Braga and Kevin Looney, basically the Oracle engineers, blah, 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 way back. 12C is quite old, I'll tell you that, but it's still appropriate as far as SQL. You won't see these books anywhere, but as I said, these are just recommended, not required at all. So please take that as stated. All right, and as I said, there's your first responsibility, and it's due on the 31st. It opened up yesterday, and the overachievers, I had a couple of you actually finished, 3 of you actually finish it. I will keep it open until the 7th, and that's basically my drop dead day. If you haven't completed it by the 7th or something else, then basically, which is the next Monday that we'll meet, if I'm correct. No, the 7th is that Sunday, the Monday is the 8th. So it will remain open, but please go in and it's a 5-question quiz, worth 5 points. And basically it's a check to see if you actually skim through the syllabus. I know you all read it for detail, but yes, we actually spend a lot of time on those syllabus. So you just click on the Concourse syllabus link here. It will display, hopefully. hopefully, there we go. And just, you can even open it up, and if you're smart, just open up the syllabus quiz in another browser and just skim through there and find all the material that you need to answer the questions. And it's an interactive syllabus, so you can always click on the links that are in the syllabus and go to that particular module, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the syllabus quiz. Please complete that before the 31st, which is next Friday. So, or wait, what's today? Today's the 25th. So that's this Friday, excuse me. I'm giving you far too much time. So that's this Friday before, is it Friday or I don't know what my, who can help me with dates?
The 31st is Sunday.
Okay, thank you. See, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, but it'd be nice to get it done before the weekend.
So get it done. I would get it done Friday because you have a long weekend. So I should just change that due date until to the 29th, but you have until the 31st, and then I'll keep it open for another week. So that's why I'm doing it that way. Plenty of time just to take your time, chill out, even, you know, do it while you're at the beach or whatever. All right. Before we get into the, well, if you're an overachiever, you probably, how many of you have actually already downloaded the SQL Server Developer? Gone in, gone through the registration, etc. Has anyone done that? You're all waiting for me to help.
I got it downloaded, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, good job, Dylan. All right, we're going to walk through that today. It's a pretty easy scenario. It takes a very short amount of time. It does. You have to be very careful. Hopefully your systems are all up to par, et cetera, et cetera. As you see, I have it downloaded, but we'll go through the process. And basically, you can Google Oracle SQL Server, SQL Developer. It will take you right to the download page, and we're going to walk through that. And that, remember, that is the platform that we'll use throughout the semester. All right, and as far as account information or credential information, it is in this is a file that you can download. It's labeled Fall 2025 Oracle accounts for our course, and I should have everyone in here. If I don't, because I had to make some changes because there's some students that were added here over the weekend, some were taken away, and I think we only have, right, I have 16 in here, but I think we only have 15. So does everyone see their name in this list? I think I'm pretty sure I have everyone's name. Its last name, as I, think of it, in the manner of the way that we list our names here, and then first name, which is another, please, once these individuals, if they're in class, I need to make sure I can pronounce your name correct, like Armel. Thank you. So, all right. So that is a document. That's where your credentials are, and you'll need that once we get to the SQL Developer download. All right. So within the modules, there's a placeholder for the lecture, and basically that will be the PowerPoint, if I have a PowerPoint, and the video recording of the lecture, all in this little placeholder here. That's where I save them, and they're all listed throughout the semester. And actually go back there tomorrow or Wednesday, and you'll see that material there. All right, so that's what that is. And yeah, I was very diligent. I even added the date, so you didn't even have to remember. Probably you want me to add Monday, but y'all should know that we meet on Monday. So anyway, all right. As far as setting up SQL Developer, and we will walk through this. Matter of fact, I would recommend that you download this page. It's just a page. This is how we're going to set up SQL Developer. And you notice that you can put in your username and password and save it, which is fine. Once again, this is an open environment. It's a cloud-based environment. There's really no need to secure, but I am going to be teaching you basically the premise of accessing, if you're working for a company that's using a truly server-based developer. I'll hit some high level. You'll see that more in the other classes. And I actually worked on a version of this about 10 years ago for a company. Anyway, we'll set that up, and hopefully by the end of this evening, everyone will be set. All right, any questions? Oh, let me back up a little bit. Now, with that being said, since I didn't give you a chance to answer your question, there is an assignment due this week, and we're getting to that now, that basically asks you to, after you install and set up the SQL developer, and I'm going to expand on this a little bit because I need to make sure that you can open up a SQL, a query work window. And I'll show you what that is here in a second. So basically, usually I just have you take a screenshot. And do you all know how to do screenshots? Does anyone here do not know how to? Because I had one student in the spring, I kept coaching him on screenshots, and he would take a picture of the screen with his phone and send it to me, and I was really annoyed by that. So I do want a screenshot, and there's several tools. The Windows has the capturing tool, and Macs, they have all types of keystrokes. So I am going to require that you create screenshots when I'm asking for screenshots, and not a picture from your phone. Those are really hard to read sometimes because of the pixelation. Depends on the quality, even with these high-level cameras. And anyway, I digress. I won't go there. So when I'm asking for a screenshot, it should be a screenshot from your system. And this particular SQL developer assignment is just to ensure you successfully download and set up the developer with your credentials. And that's due on the 7th, which that's next week, right? And I think that, and then the module quiz, and I'll get to that in a second, are due for the week. Now, I'm going to talk about things like this particular, and this is really hard to read. I'm not going to, well, okay, I'll download it. This is basically what the database will look like. So if you download this, and this is called a schema representation, and this is just an Excel spreadsheet, but if you take a look at this, and I'll expand it a little bit, this gives you an idea, and I will be referring to this quite often, essentially the database setup of what we're dealing with. Hopefully. Wait, no, this is different. This is a little different, but we do hit some of these tables throughout the semester. I'm not going to dwell on that. But this gives you an idea how you can read a schema as far as the structure. And you'll see this if you get into the database world, the tables and all that. We'll get back to that. And then there's another representation of a database that you'll also be exposed to. It's called an ERD, Entity Relationship Diagram. And this is jumping a little bit ahead. I'm going to ensure that you understand things like primary keys, foreign keys, cardinality, and normalization. Yes, those terms you will see a lot of this first part. But this, usually you can read through an ERD and understand exactly what the database looks like. And I'm skimming through this quite rapidly, but we will detail this as we go through the course. And yeah, in fact, I did update this. So yeah, let me download this right quick so that you kind of see this is more appropriate to our current database. These are all the tables that you will be dealing with in this database. Job history, job, employee, department, location, country, job grade, and then the spoken languages. All of these are part of our database structure. Okay, so please download that, take a look at it. It'll give you kind of a heads up as to the structure of the database that we will be working. Phew. All right. Oracle, as I said before, has a ton of resources within their Oracle Academy. You go into this part of the module, this will actually take you to their essentially resources, everything from introduction, and much of the components of what we will be following is in this As a matter of fact, I did follow most of this. It's been recently updated, but we will hit all the high points. As far as, so if you want a textbook, just bookmark this page, the SQL language reference. This will give you everything you need. And I would recommend with those quizzes, if something is not clear from my presentation, look for it here. It has a good search window, but that's as good of a textbook as you need for this class and the other classes too, for that matter. Right? So that's that Oracle database SQL language reference. And it just opens it up. I would just bookmark it and just have it as one of your shortcuts. It will provide all that you need. Okay, so you're wondering, all of you, you have no idea what a database is, right? Or SQL. You're like, well, I don't know what that is. Well, I'm going to show you this little video, and you can find this on YouTube. It's pretty short, but it'll give you a good start. If you have questions about database, and please, if you have questions about some of the explanations, please ask me. All right, here we go.
Welcome to this tutorial series on SQL and database. But before we learn about database, let's understand, what is data? In simple words, data can be facts related to any object in consideration. For example, your name, age, height, weight, etc. are some data related to you. A picture, image, file, PDF, etc. can all be considered data. Now, what is a database? We already know what data is, but this data could be random. A database is a systematic collection of data. Since the data in a database is organized, it makes data management easy. What is a database management system? DBMS. Database Management System, or DBMS, is a collection of programs which enables its users to access a database, manipulate data, and help in the representation of data. It also helps control access to the database by various users. Let's discuss a few examples. An online telephone directory would definitely use Database Management System to store data pertaining to people, phone numbers, and other contact details. Your electricity service provider is obviously using a DBMS to manage billing, client-related issues, to handle fault data, etc. Let's consider the Facebook. It needs to store, manipulate, and present data related to members, their friends, member activities, messages, advertisements, and a lot more. We can provide countless numbers of examples for usage of DBMS. Database management systems are not a new concept, and as such had been first implemented in the 1960s. Charles Bachman's Integrated Data Store, or IDS, is said to be the first DBMS in history. With time, database technologies evolved a lot, while usage and expected functionalities of databases have been increased immensely. Types of DBMS. Let's see how the DBMS family evolved with time. The following diagram shows the evolution of DBMS categories. There are 4 major types of DBMS. Let's look into them in detail. Hierarchical. This type of DBMS employs the parent-child relationship of storing data. This type of DBMS is rarely used nowadays. Its structure is like a tree with nodes representing records and branches representing fields. The Windows registry used in Windows XP is an example of a hierarchical database. Configuration settings are stored as tree structures with nodes. Network DBMS. This type of DBMS supports many-to-many relationships. This usually results in complex database structures. RDM Server is an example of a database management system that implements the network model. Relational DBMS. This type of DBMS defines database relationships in forms of tables, also known as relations. Unlike the network DBMS, our DBMS does not support many-to-many relationships. Relational DBMS usually have predefined data types that they can support. This is the most popular DBMS type in the market. Examples of relational database management systems include MySQL, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL Server. Object-oriented relational DBMS. This type supports storage of new data types. The data to be stored is in the form of objects. The objects to be stored in the database have attributes, for example, gender or age, and methods that define what to do with the data. PostgreSQL is an example of object-oriented relational DBMS. So what is SQL? Structured Query Language, SQL, pronounced as SQL or sometimes as SQL, is actually the standard language for dealing with relational databases. SQL can be effectively used to insert, search, update, and delete database records. That doesn't mean SQL cannot do things beyond that. In fact, it helps in optimizing and maintenance of databases and much more. Relational databases like MySQL, Oracle, MS SQL, Sybase, etc. use SQL. SQL syntaxes used in these databases are almost similar, except the fact that some databases use different syntaxes and even proprietary SQL syntaxes. An example of an SQL statement: select star from members where age is greater than 30. DBMS stands for Database Management System. We have 4 major types of DBMSs called hierarchical, network, relational, and object-oriented. The most widely used DBMS is the relational model that saves data in table formats. It uses SQL as the standard query language. SQL is the standard language used to query a database. The database approach has many advantages when it comes to storing data compared to the traditional flat file-based systems.
All right, so the interesting thing about that, you may think, and during my career as working with data, there was a time when we thought that the relational model would go away. One example, Google has millions of schemas that they collect to make their several petabytes of data. And believe it or not, I would say about 90% of that database structure is a relational model. So with all the data that they're processing, somewhere down the core of all that coding is simple SQL. You probably don't realize this. This is why it's so important. This is why this particular baseline or fundamental level of knowledge is so important, and especially since we're using data to manipulate everything now, including the high levels, which is involved in machine learning and AI. So yes, this is truly important. So don't dismiss the importance of this foundational class. Any questions about what is a database? I know that's a little dry, but it gives you a break from me for a little bit. I probably won't play all of the data normalization. This gets a little confusing, but I want to introduce this to you right away because this helps you to learn, if you don't know already, the whole idea of tables and why they're built and what's the relationship, how is that associated. So let's bear with me here.
If you've had some exposure to relational databases,
let me pause. I'm not going to play all the 28 minutes. As I said, I just want to introduce you to some of the basic concepts of normalization. I do recommend, because I will cut this off, please take the time, go back and listen to the entire video because it is important.
you've probably come across the term normalization. But what is normalization? Why do we do it? How do we do it? And what bad things can happen if we don't do it? In this video, we're going to explore database normalization from a practical perspective. We'll keep the jargon to a minimum, and we'll use lots of examples as we go. By the end of it, you'll understand the so-called normal forms from first normal form all the way up to fifth normal form. And you'll have a clear sense of what we gain by doing normalization and what we lose by failing to do it. This is Decomplexify, bringing a welcome dose of simplicity to complex topics. Data. It's everywhere, and some of it is wrong. By and large, even a good database design can't protect against bad data, but there are some cases of bad data that a good database design can protect against. These are cases where the data is telling us something that logically cannot possibly be true. One customer with 2 dates of birth is logically impossible. It's what we might call a failure of data integrity. The data can't be trusted because it disagrees with itself. When data disagrees with itself, that's more than just a problem of bad data. It's a problem of bad database design. Specifically, it's what happens when a database design isn't properly normalized. So what does normalization mean? When you normalize a database table, you structure it in such a way that it can't express redundant information. So, for example, in a normalized table, you wouldn't be able to give customer 1001 2 dates of birth, even if you wanted to. Very broadly, the table can only express one version of the truth. Normalized tables are not only protected from contradictory data, they're also easier to understand, easier to enhance and extend, and protected from insertion anomalies, update anomalies, and deletion anomalies. More on these later. How do we determine whether a table isn't normalized enough? In other words, how do we determine if there's a danger that redundant data could creep into the table? Well, it turns out that there are sets of criteria we can use to assess the level of danger. These sets of criteria have names like first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, and so on. Think of these normal forms by analogy to safety assessments. We might imagine an engineer doing a very basic safety assessment on a bridge. Let's say the bridge passes the basic assessment, which means it achieves safety level 1, safe for pedestrian traffic. That gives us some comfort, but suppose we want to know if cars can safely drive across the bridge.
I'm going to stop it there because he goes on. You should have a pretty good idea why normalization is important. And we're going to talk about all the normal forms as we go, but normalization is really the one thing that's protecting the relational database model and is ensuring that the data integrity is pretty high. And you'll hear that a lot, and you'll see that in quizzes, etc. But please remember that. So the whole purpose of this was to introduce you to this video. Please take the time, go back. It's in the first module, and if you can bear all the animation and all that, just watch the whole thing to get an idea what normalization is. I will cover normalization in a later lesson and some details as to how you can ensure that normal form is adequate for that particular table structure and database. All right. With that, you do have a quiz in the first module. Each of the modules, I think there's quizzes in all of the modules. And I do want to let you know that the modules or the module quizzes are associated with the materials in that module. I'm not trying to trick you or anything like that. So to review, essentially what you're responsible for over the next couple of weeks. Make sure you're comfortable with the resources, both the student and course resources. And then module 1 is what we're in now, the intro to Oracle. Make sure you make a note of what your credentials are. And you will need to complete the install Oracle SQL Developer assignment. And I am going to modify that so a little bit. for you to add two screenshots. And don't panic. Once you set it up, it's pretty easy. And I'm going to go over that here in a second, so please pay attention. And then basically you have the quiz. And those are both due on September 7th, which is a week from Sunday. But the syllabus quiz, which is the first thing that you should complete to pretty much solidify your enrollment, that's due this Sunday. All right. And yes, as suggested, I would say do that before the weekend so you don't have to worry about it. All right, so briefly, let me go through the structure of the course. We have several modules, and basically they're all open. I don't necessarily like closing anything, so if you're truly an overachiever and you think you can get through, because basically there's practice and then there's assignment and quizzes, and essentially, and there's all types of resources in there. You can almost teach yourself this course, but I would be very careful because there's some nuances here, and I will go through a lot of those during the lecture. So there's a lecture and the topics covered, and then essentially the structure of it is there's resource videos, except for module 1. There's basically these videos are just good information to get you started. The rest of the modules will have resource videos, and hopefully you can see them. I think you can. Let me make sure as a student. Phew. Yeah, that would have been bad. And these videos are fairly useful, so don't dismiss those because they can be used to help you with the quizzes, to help you with the other big tests that are coming up. And the reason why I say that, let me go back into the modules view. So after, and these are all basically the same. There's some little subtle differences. Just remember our first week is kind of an extended week, which essentially ends on September 7th. So after you get through all of this, after module 9, which is, or excuse me, after module 8, I did change that, which is basically the end of October, you have a midterm. And all of the exams in this course, you have to download and use the Respondus Lockdown browser. And I want to explain that right away. The Respondus Lockdown browser, basically, it is a browser that will not allow you to open up any other applications on your system. If you open up anything else in your system, it will close the exam. So, I'll talk about the parameters and the expectations around that once we get there. It is essentially open book. It's just not open computer. So, and that is kind of a good way for you to go through the midterm and final with using what you know. Of course, there's AI on your phone and whatever, and you can probably get away with that, but we're not concerned about that. You basically hurt yourself when you do it. So that's after module 8, basically halfway through the course. And we continue, and I'll tell you right now, it does accelerate a little bit. The second half of the course, there's a lot more involved. We cover a little more material. There's usually a couple things that you have to accomplish. And then at the end of the semester, we have a final exam and a final project. And the final project you use the database that you have, and you build your own little schema. And I'll talk about that as we get to that point. But you do have a final exam during final exam week, basically. And that also, Respondus Lockdown browser is also required there. All right, that was kind of the course in a nutshell. A lot going on, but not overwhelming. As long as you just stay on top of it each week. All right, so what I like to do in this last part of the course, first of all, I know we are pretty much scheduled to go to 8:40. Generally, I'll go an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and then I'll use as I stated in my welcome, I use the last 40 minutes if necessary for office hours. A lot of this is essentially, since this is live online, I know after a while you get bored and we lose your attention. So I'm not going to sit here and lecture to you for 2 hours. But what I'd like for you all to do, and I may challenge one of you to share your screen to make sure you've done that, we're going to download and set up SQL Developer. So what I need for you to do is you can Google or just do a search for Oracle SQL Developer from your browser, from Google. This should take you to something that looks like this. And you can go to SQL Developer, but just click on the download link and it should take you to this page. And we are currently on 24.3.1, which, as you see, those textbooks, and this is the latest version released December last year. The one thing I want to point out, this will run on any operating system, any platform, Mac, Linux, whatever you have, MChip on Mac. And I do want to point that out. If you're advanced and you understand Visual Studio Code, you probably want to download the VS Code extension, but I don't recommend that for everyone because you really need to know how to set that up. If you're on Windows, okay, download the 64-bit with JDK 17 because this will add all of the engines, the backend engines and extensions that you need. The difference between that and the 32-bit 64-bit, which I don't think there's anyone running, hopefully there's no one running a 32-bit system, but there are some out there. So on Windows, your best choice is the Windows 64-bit with JDK 17 included, right? 555 meg, so that's quite a bit. So make sure you go ahead and download that. Go ahead and click on the link. If you're running a Mac, how many Mac users do I have?
I'm using Mac.
All right, if you're running a Mac.
I'm also using Mac.
All right, so are you on an MChip or a Intel? Which processor?
I'm in the M4.
All right, so if you're on M4, you have to download this version, Mac ARM64 with JDK included. Not this version. This version here. This is the only version. This is the version that you would download if you had an Intel. So download this version, and that will run fine on your
So
Mac.
for the Intel, we get the JDK.
For the Intel Mac.
Yes.
Yes. This version.
Okay, thank you.
For the any of the M chips, if the M4, which is a very nice system, yeah, go ahead and download this version. Okay. All right. So that will take a little bit. Shouldn't take too long. It's just depending on your download speeds, et cetera. Should take anywhere from 15 possible. Well, although these M4s, that probably just takes a few seconds. Those things are crazy. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So once you download it, it's not anything that you need to do. You should either see an icon. I labeled it SQL Developer, and basically I pinned it. With the Macs, you just mount it wherever and launch it from your applications. But on Windows, just pin it to your taskbar, and when you launch it, and yes, you'll notice. Oh no, I did upgrade to the new version. It will include all the extensions that you need, definitely for this class. And I guess the landing page will look more like this. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, this is your first screenshot. That's a landing page. But you need to set up this ORCL. This is our cloud base for our class. And basically, what you need to do, if you're there, you want to create a new connection. See this nice little large green plus. Click on that. It will open up the pop-up that will allow you to name it ORCL, all lowercase. And let me go back to that document because this is all in that document in case you forget this. So the name is ORCL. It's Oracle. You want to go ahead and add your user information, that password that's in your credentials and student, whatever number you are. Don't be student 1. That's supposedly me. And I would suggest just saving your password. There's really no big security risk. This is a protected environment, and really there's no data in there that's active or no private information or anything like that. And then in that document, it basically shows you, because you have to include the CG, basically the server, the host name, the CGITI Oracle from that. And I'll show you the document here again. Oops. So this is the document. It's labeled CIS119DO Oracle Connection Dialog, and it has all the parameters. That host name, the port, and the SID are all important. It's a little bit different than this. As you notice, it looks like this, but all of that information is the same. Make sure you select SID. And then once you've configured all that, make sure you test the connection. Just click the, excuse me, I didn't do that right. Let me go back. So once you've entered in all of that information, there is a test, and it'll give you a status of success. And then go ahead and connect. Now, once you connect, in some of the instances, it will launch a query development page. But if it does not, it's pretty simple. You can barely see it. There's a little green icon at the top. And if you hover over it, it says SQL Worksheet or Alt F10. If you click on that, it will bring up the connections that you have successfully, and that will open up your Query Builder worksheet. And I will add this to the assignment. This is your second screenshot. I need to make sure everyone has the worksheet, even before we expand the tables and all that. So you should see this ORCL and the welcome page and then the worksheet. Does that make sense to everyone? Or did I go too fast? A couple thumbs up. And this is basically the environment that we're going to be working on, building our queries to our little database here. Now, if you've been able to add this, go ahead and expand the ORCL schema, and then expand the tables just to make sure you have all of these tables in there from countries all the way down to WF world regions. They all should be in there because we're in the same cloud instance. We're just different access to that instance. So I do want to remind you that you have your own individual instance. Whatever you do to that is fine, as long as you don't destroy any tables. There's a way that I can refresh it, and we'll talk about that too, but just make sure you can access that ORCL. That's an actual student-based database from Oracle. And we will use that database throughout the class. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, so how many of you were able to successfully, I know with these high-end systems, successfully install SQL Developer Oracle this evening? And you have this page. Great. I think that's my highest success rate for the class. And the rest of you, I know Dylan said he had already installed it. Justin and Bo, just make sure. And once again, I do want a screenshot of this, the landing page, and a screenshot, even though the tab is there, but I do want a screenshot of the worksheet for that assignment. And that's all you need in that assignment. 2 screenshots, done. That's 5 points. But your environment, you'll be ready to start querying your database. Make sense? Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let me review right quick what I'm expecting. Does anyone have any questions about what I want you to accomplish? Pretty clear, right? All right. So my expectations from you all, once again, yeah, since I'm here, I'm gonna add that second screenshot in there. Since we have plenty of time, since I'm making this up as, no, I'm not really making it up as I go, but I do want to make sure, because this was a problem I ran into last semester. Everyone was telling me that they were fine and they really weren't. So I'm doing this from Windows, so. And the Macs, they have even easier ways to create screenshots, so. Oracle worksheet, query worksheet. And if anyone needs for me to show them anything on the Mac, although once you're in the environment, it's exactly the same. There's nothing different from a Mac than Windows, except maybe some of the keystrokes, but I use both systems, so I am pretty comfortable instructing on each. So what I'm asking for basically for this assignment, and it's pretty simple, but you're just going to add 2 screenshots. And if you've already submitted, that's fine. I'm not going to deduct any points. But because I can see the second tab, etc. So I'm just looking for those screenshots for that assignment. All right. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. All right. So any immediate concerns or questions, or our first experience together will be pretty laid back. Do the syllabus quiz, get it out of the way, do the SQL Developer. It's probably one of the easiest platforms to set up, which is why Oracle is starting to gain traction on SQL Server. And then, well, Oracle owns MySQL, if you did not know that. So, but this, I recommend that everyone who's wanting to learn, well, of course, they don't have this pre-configured environment, but it's easy enough to even configure your own database. You just have to understand how to build those queries, which you're all going to be able to do. So I do recommend that even after this class, definitely keep that that platform, that IDE development environment in place. Eventually, well, after the semester, your credentials will expire, but if you're in the Oracle Academy and if you're going on to the series, you'll get other credentials that are actually hitting a different database, but I would definitely keep it installed. There's really no reason to uninstall it, is what I'm saying. Okay. So that's essentially all that I'm going to cover this evening. I'm a little bit concerned because there's a lot of students that are, including one that we added. No, that was Justin. I'm glad you're here. But we added like 3 over the weekend and they're not here. So, and it's not your problem and you don't have to worry about it. But I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad I got to see all of your faces briefly. Although you're now all camera shy, except for Valerie. Thank you, Valerie. There's always one student that stays on. Yay. I'm very happy about that. But any final questions for me? All right, is everyone okay? Can I get a thumbs up from everyone? Thumbs up. Thank you. All right. So remember, no class next week. That's Labor Day weekend. You can definitely finish the syllabus quiz, get it out of the way, and take your time for you probably have already completed the other assignment. And yes, if you're brave enough, you can take that quiz. Now, actually, I don't remember what I put in that quiz. I was going to give you some heads up, but I'm trying to gauge what you think you know. I think it's pretty straightforward. Some of it's based on the videos, some of it's based on just some of the information that I've given you tonight. But don't worry so much if you don't do absolutely well. I'm very lenient on this first quiz because you probably run into something and you'll say, well, he didn't say anything about that. He's a terrible instructor. Well, yeah, I am, but that's all right. So don't be afraid of these quizzes, especially as we get on further in the semester. It is all of the information is included either in the context of the lecture or in the reading material, and those practices and all of that. Yeah, it's going to seem like a lot, but that will definitely help you with the assignments and the quizzes. And I'll get into that. I have to kind of restart after 2 weeks because you'll forget everything. Because I don't think you're ready to go out and start creating queries. You're gonna say, I'm glad that's over. On to my next class. But anyway, the class does start out a little slow. I'll give you fair warning, but it does pick up quite a bit as we get into it. And I'll try to make the lectures somewhat entertaining. It's very hard virtually. I can't really dance or anything like that, but you know, and sometimes it's just just too hard to keep your attention. But I will try. And it seems like I kept your attention for over an hour, which is pretty good for me. But all right, any final comments or concerns? No, Valerie says no. Everyone else is saying no because I can't see them. Okay, Dylan says no, and all right, so thank you. All right, so thank you all for your attention. I hope you all have a good evening. I don't know how much wind you had at your house. We had a pretty good storm move through campus here, but I will see you all in 2 weeks. And remember, if you have any questions about anything, either send me a Canvas message or you can even text me if you want. And I'm not doing anything over the holiday, but I like answering questions, and I check the Canvas messages because it comes through all the time. So, all right, thank you, and look for the lecture material in Canvas, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. Woo, good start.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Happy Labor Day.
You too.